started. Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here today with Taylor Budd, who is as close to a Tao master that I've ever met, or Tao devotee, to the point where I'm even uncomfortable. I'm even uncomfortable introducing you for your persona when you just are as you are. But I wanted to read a couple of my favorite recent tweets of yours and then let you do a little more introduction. Basically, you can tell people where to find.
Oh, okay, awesome. That's right. Yeah, I always forget that I'm on Twitter, man, because it's like directly connected. It's not like I post on there.
Yeah, totally. And
I post on the Facebook. So all my spelling errors come through on Twitter. I probably look like crazy on Twitter sometimes. Because, sometimes the autocorrect be killing me.
Everyone looks crazy on Twitter.
Facebook, okay, all right. I'm just saying I don't edit Twitter. I never edit Twitter.
Okay, you guys can judge for yourself how crazy you think he is on Twitter, but yeah, I get what you mean when you can't correct your spelling errors. But one of the things, using the word crazy, one of your tweets was, life is pretty much realizing what you don't want. The people that are truly crazy are the ones still trying to convince themselves they want something that limits them so that they don't have to meet their truest potential. I really liked that one. And there was also, desperation has been normalized. Eating dead stuff is desperate as fuck. And a lot of other stuff is very desperate. Anarchy is peace, though. # plot twist. The divine exercises by returning to itself. People use sex for escapism. Nothing pushes you out of your body quicker than ejaculation. This is the GMO music era. You are what you eat, so everyone is breatharian. We are all spirits. Breath is spirit and keeps your heart alive. And this one I really, really like. It's, when the supernatural is strained, the natural steps forth. When the natural is strained, the unnatural steps forth. You can only reduce perfection. You can't add to it. This can only disrespect it.
Yeah.
You agree with yourself?
Those are some pretty good ones. Yeah, that's showing me some good light there.
Yeah, you have. I didn't. I chose them on purpose, of course. And I also, in my first interview, just for everyone to know, Taylor was the first person that I thought of wanting to have on this podcast, and I have done a few interviews since, but you were the first one that I wanted to talk to. And one of your tweets said, "I'm the Mandalorian of this Tao shit. This is the way." And the woman in my first interview was talking about the Mandalorian, and I hadn't heard of it. So, yeah.
Did you watch it yet?
No, I still don't get the reference.
Because the Mandalorian, all the people from Mandalore, they all had that, a religion. It's like a creed. It's like, to be a Mandalorian is not like a race.
Yeah.
It's a religion.
Uh-huh.
So, they be like, yo, we don't do this or we don't do that. And then there's no argument, with the squad. They be like, this is the way. This is the way. It's just so funny to me, and you know how they call the Tao the way or the imminence of the way and shit.
Yeah, totally. And this, I'm with you.
Funny,
It is. So congratulations on being.
Funny. Yeah, you gotta see it.
Yeah, I will now. All right, so I wanted you to talk a little bit about, when you introduce yourself. Why don't you do a quick little saying where people can find you blip before we get too into it? Could you?
My personal account is on Instagram probably, man. I mean, my personal account is TAILOR _BUDD 5, the number 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my public account is Taolore, TAOLORE on Instagram.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way to reach me, really, Instagram. I mean, you can find me on Facebook, but
or email.
Instagram be better.
But I'll put those links, of course.
Yeah, because you keep it really simple, man. You really don't mess with the social media, and that's some true strength now, 2020.
There's a lot of
To be off of social media and to not have a smartphone. You're doing it.
I'm doing something. I've been not doing lots of things that I should be doing. But anyway, that's something. And your most recent couple books were 2020 Tantra and Crown Tantra. And I have one more quote of yours that I wanted to talk about, and then have you maybe talk a little bit more about 2020 Tantra, because it's one of those things I wish everyone read. So the quote it's from an earlier video, maybe from last year, but it says, if no male on earth expresses the divine masculine, if some male doesn't totally embody that, then every female is weaker because the steel sharpens the steel. If she never sees it, she can never integrate her own inner masculinity. The further back we have to go to find out where that strong male was, the more diluted the masculinity is and the more broken it is. So when you get that full masculinity, then it can be embodied and the full feminine can be embodied and the full balance can happen and harmony can happen. But he's got to respect himself. He's got to.
No, it's real. I mean, like,
yeah.
It's really no different than like, it's not much different than I guess if somebody said, like they were raised without a father and it's like a trend in their family, like it's a fatherless situation and they never had that full embodiment in their corner.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you just have this repetitive cycle of like a lower standard because you've only been exposed to a lower standard, and it's really like it's not like a female's fault. I mean, in some regards, maybe we're all at some levels, maybe we fucked each other up at some level, but it's upon it's your own responsibility to embody that.
Yeah, totally.
It's not female's fault. But I'm more so saying like, man, like we as a species could be a lot better if males actually respected themselves. You know what I mean? Like it's a different level of respect. Like I guess like me and you could probably laugh about certain things because we've like our self-discovery is in a different state, like to where you can laugh about like, man, like right there I was just being sociopathic or I was being psychopathic. Like that was definitely
totally
some subconscious shit I just, you know what I mean? And
yes.
you laugh about it.
Yes.
But other people are gonna take, they're gonna take offense to it, because they haven't really reached that state yet. They haven't afforded themselves that state to where they like can step outside of the idea of themselves and say like, man, I might be fucked up in these ways, this
mm-hmm.
might be self-hate if I do this. Like
totally.
So, people just, just the definitions of this, that's kind of like, I feel like what rubs people wrong, I guess, with me, with that type of shit where like people gonna think like, how can you say what a man is or what a man should be or whatever.
Totally.
But it got a lot to do with just a different degree of respect. You know what I mean? Like if a guy doesn't respect his himself enough to respect his seed and where he puts his seed, and he, like most dudes are just ejaculating frivolously.
Yeah.
So if he lacks that respect, it's like so many other things along the checklist that you can be sure he really does not acknowledge or respect in life. Like, it's like the same way, like if somebody is like a hardcore meat eater and shit like that, it's probably like, probably likely that they'll kill bugs and shit without any thought. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
definitely
a different level of respect. Just a different level of respect, like for life itself. So like if you don't respect your own seed, like you're gonna definitely disrespect life in other ways. Like
absolutely.
You're disrespecting yourself like that. You gotta disrespect women if you disrespect yourself like that.
Definitely. And I totally sorry?
Yeah. No, I'm saying like it's just like the chain. It's just like the chain of course. Like it just the ripple,
Yeah. And it's just too evident that like the snake eating its own tail or the fish or whatever, it produces that kind of life. So Yeah, I feel like I get your reaction to me reading that, because it does sound like you could be, it sounds almost too perfect, like lots of the things sound when you're speaking the truth, like about how everything is perfect and everything's in, and you can just walk through this
Yeah,
eternity, all those kinds of things. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, we all walk in invisible paths and shit that nobody else can walk really.
yeah.
So, but yeah, like I mean, like I know a lot of people's gonna take offense to that though, like male and female. They're gonna be like, how can he say I don't embody the masculine? If you haven't been exposed to it, if you haven't been exposed to it, you don't know. I mean, some women
Yeah,
probably might have had a stand-up guy in their, in their life, but if I've never been exposed to a quality female, where is my compass? How do I know up from down
for sure.
if I've never been exposed to it? All I can do is, reach back as far as the women in my own life. That's why, what I'm saying, like as far as people have absent fathers, or if you have emotionally absent parents, mother or father,
Yeah,
it's like, it's, it's got to be some kind of, you're gonna have to go back further and further. Like you'd be like, all right, my father wasn't there, but I knew my grandfather. Or my father wasn't there, but I knew my uncle. Or my mom was emotionally absent, but her sister was a quality woman, and that's where I learned what this looks like. Like, like because if you were just raised around people that constantly lie and cheat and steal, then it's not really lying and cheating and stealing to you. It's just regular life.
yeah, definitely. But it's definitely interesting. I think that we can tell that even with all those like we have different levels of examples of masculinity or femininity in the people around us, but we know that we're so below what our potential is for those things. Like I think we can sense what those qualities are in other people, even if we didn't grow up around a very strong version of them. But
Yeah, it would definitely come off as foreign at first, though. I mean, it would be
totally.
like innately, you probably, it would reflect on you like, oh snap, this is quality. It's kind of like,
Exactly. It'd be like walking into a garden, like instead of a normal city. So
yeah, it's like if you heard um some music to a digital sound, and then you heard the person sing it in person with you, and you're like, oh, this is how it's supposed to sound.
yeah,
Like this is, it's just different. Like it's just quality, man. That's it, and like that's really it.
yeah. Quality is a wonderful topic. I was
Because like if
just
you've been eating,
yeah,
I don't know, hamburger helper all your life, then like your taste is just different. It's like just a different. You got a different taste. You see what I'm trying to bridge here.
yeah. And it was making me think of, I hadn't planned to talk about this, but since Kobe just died, and I'm not sure if you remember that I was quite a Kobe fan, Kobe Bryant. I'm not sure if you heard the news up on your estate, but
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, it's hard to not hear that. I mean, like I love basketball, so
yeah,
I heard it.
yeah, I was
I
sorry.
didn't know you were. I didn't know you was a big Kobe fan.
Yeah, I was a big Kobe fan, but I sort of put together in my mind, I was a big Nipsey and a big Kobe fan, and they both have left us. And I was thinking about how, like, of course I genuinely, like, I appreciate so many things about them, but of course the true, like, thing that a lot of people admire them for is like their complete seeming, like how they have that killer mentality, how they're the aggressive ones. And today, especially, I was thinking about how crazy harmful that idolization of just like the hardest man in the world is, and how you talk a lot about softness, and that of course can be incorporated, like the masculinity that they show, and the grit and the
You broke up.
intelligence. Sorry, can you hear me now?
You broke up. You broke up at softness.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say that the the masculinity and the intelligence that they show is really inspiring and really, really amazing. But I think that it's easy to look at them and turn it into this huge ideal of pushing and driving and becoming the invulnerable one through that killer mentality, when the true invulnerability, it seems like, is when you are extremely soft, like, and extremely non-forceful. And do you get what I'm getting at about, like, that we idolize these people who look sort of like they're the hardest, they're the killers, and it's it seems like that could be very harmful in a way, because people aren't realizing that the soft qualities are actually like the most invulnerable. Do you get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff is self-defense, man. Like a lot.
Oh, totally. That's what is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, like Nipsey. He was raised in that environment where it behooves oneself to, like he said in his own words, like you gotta get your hatred up to survive here.
Yeah.
And like, it just,
yeah, you have to channel your dark side.
Yeah, I guess you can call it dark.
Sure.
However you want to, whatever you want to call it. But like, I just think that these are people that probably have. Well, I don't know about Kobe. I don't know what he went through in his lifetime, but Nipsey probably was exposed to intense traumas and probably delivered intense traumas, and like,
yeah, definitely.
That probably occurred in his lifetime. So it's like so much you see, so much is a veil, and like wearing that veil, puts you in more danger.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. And but with Kobe, man, I really feel like he took basketball like the same way a guy that might be a neurosurgeon or something. Like
yeah.
He was such a student. Like it's like the same way like you might have a friend that's more into academics and you're like, man, you want to play? And they're like, nah, I got to focus on this. I'm doing this. I'm doing my chemistry report, whatever. And like that's kind of how I feel like he did it. Like his dad was in the NBA. He kind of sculpted him and let him know what he groomed him up to where what he was getting into. And so I feel like Kobe had to put on that persona too, like that whole like Mamba persona and everything. I think he was a nice guy too. I don't think that, you know what I mean? I really don't think he was the worst guy. You know what I mean? Like,
oh no,
I really don't think. I know a lot of.
No, I don't think it.
Call him a rapist and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think. You know what I mean? I don't think things are what they say it is. I mean.
Yeah.
I don't think he didn't lose in criminal court. I think he lost in civil, right?
I don't remember the specific story, other than I think it was settled outside of court after like the woman ended up not testifying at a certain point, but I'm not sure. But
yeah, I mean, like a lot of people are gonna harp on that, you know what I mean? But a lot of people scream rape in this world at this time, so I don't know, man. I really don't know what happened. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I really feel like Kobe was a sheltered child that was raised by an NBA player that he had to create that exterior. Same way like Nipsey was raised in 60s and South Central, and he had to put that shell on, and it just sucks living inside of a shell because the whole time you're trying to get rid of it. You can tell like you don't want it, like really, like it's just self-defense, and like people really, they really adore the weakness. Really, it's really like a weakness.
I know, yeah.
Be like that, yeah, like to be constantly hard, and like you got to be firm sometimes, but it's just it's with the weakness, man. I don't care what no one says. Like to be sociopathic or psychopathic out of self-defense. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's really like it's blight. It's the blight of the given circumstances of the world. But you gotta call a spade at some level and be like, man,
it's self-defense.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like living defensively like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like, what do you like? What's up though? Like, what you just think? Were you just saying that people idolize the wrong thing?
No, I think that they idolize them for good reasons as well, but I think it's just important to understand that in life, I think like at our weakest moments, when we need to accept the perfection of everything and accept the perfection of ourselves so we don't completely hate ourselves, most people, due to how the culture works right now, I think go strictly in their head and go, I have to have more force and determination, like someone like Kobe or Nipsey. I have to kill myself to be better. And I think that causes like a huge amount of self-hate and mental illness and things like that, rather than the soft, the Tao approach. Not that that's simple, like people can just apply that, but if you're so attached to the idea that I have to be an achiever and I have to be hard to be an achiever, it causes a lot of suffering. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say they mastered the Tao in certain respects, like Kobe just being diligent with certain things in the game of basketball, to where it was just effortless. It was way. It was non-action in motion, basically, because he was breathing basketball. He didn't have to think.
Mm-hmm.
So like at some level he mastered way, because on the court there was plenty of things he could do without having to think. It was just, there was no trying involved. He's just doing it unconsciously.
Yeah.
So it's just that it was that work ethic, like just that every day get a little bit better for fucking 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, and kind of the same thing with Nipsey. I mean, he's just like every day beating that drum, constantly just doing features with people and constantly making music and making mixtapes and doing different schemes to sell the mixtapes and stuff. So
yeah,
they gotta handle it in some ways, but I feel like with entertainment, since you're packaging your persona,
mm-hmm.
you're always gonna sell the idea. You're selling the idea of yourself, like even to yourself, kind of.
Yeah, and that. Yeah, and that seems. Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, how can you put on the Superman outfit if you don't feel like Superman? You kind of gotta like soup yourself up to be like, yeah, I'm this, or it just won't come off real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna resonate the same.
Yeah, it's interesting that way, and it does seem like that could contribute to being killed by that in the end. In a way.
Yeah.
But
because I mean, he had to make a huge image. I mean, his estate was worth like $4.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
But if you watch the videos, and you watch him with, he had his own chains, but he was wearing other people's chains and stuff too. Like a lot of rappers do it though. It's not like I mean, especially when you're in a big community like 60s.
Yeah.
He was so like.
Yeah.
It was like a community effort, but
which is what's beautiful about it. But yeah, that it wasn't.
Yeah, but he had to make it appear like it was it was a tight knit circle at some level, but it's a community effort, man. Like it was a whole like people hoisting him up. He put his work in, but he had a whole community. Same thing. I said same thing with Kobe. Like it's like this illusion of this guy just arrived and he's he's down with the set and his music is he's getting these features with people like it's because you got them really old school gangsters from Los Angeles, which is a lot of people live there from entertainment industry. So like he was getting features that a lot of people probably wouldn't get. Like he had a Drake feature before he ever released an album.
Mm-hmm.
So like
yeah, he was in
that, like an average person. Yeah, that's not like you're gonna pay for that. That costs money, and it's like people. I don't know where people think that people were getting the startup money from, but like with a lot of entertainers, like the guy that just died, Juice World, they selling drugs so that they can wash the money into entertainment to where they can not sell drugs anymore.
Yeah.
Or some of them trying to sell drugs at a higher level. Just don't even you know what I mean? Some
yeah.
Continue and just don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's really desperation. It's all desperation. It's like look at me. Isn't this crazy? Isn't this amazing that I'm doing this? Like, and it's like kind of Taoist in a sense because you're not showing people all that went into the presentation. You're just showing people the results. So like that part of it is like, wow, look at this. Look what they did. It looked like he just appeared out of nowhere. And it's like, now it's a lot of work and a lot of effort, community effort into this thing. It's tough when you lose yourself in a community because you can't really remove itself,
Yeah, that's where you get your value. Yeah, that's true. And the main thing that I would just say about both of them that I think is probably genuinely very inspiring is the ability to take the good and the bad and turn it into fuel for themselves rather than to push themselves more, and push themselves maybe is a negative term, but to enjoy their life in a more alive, full way than if you sort of punished yourself for bad things. And they both did that in a very powerful way. So I'm going to change the topic a ton now. I wanted to talk about the zodiac, because I think that how you talk about, what do you say? Is it the zoo circle? It has it's a that it's the process of the illusion, that it's more about chemistry, and that when you're looking at life from your divine perspective, it's sort of absent in a way. I don't know how to talk about it, but the way that most people use astrology now is so tied up in their identity about themselves. And I would love you to talk a little bit more about how you think about it. What it means to you.
I mean, it's like you said, it's the zoo circle. The zodiac literally means zoo circle. So it's it's the animal circle, and like it's just giving you like the tendency of really heat and pressure in different ways throughout the day and throughout the monthly cycle or the lunar cycle and the yearly cycle, the solar cycle or whatever. And I guess all the other heavenly bodies, whatever you want to call them, like it's really just pressure within the body. Like once you know how things is correlating, then you don't really need to, chart the stars like that because you just know your body, so you can feel like, okay, the energies in this, the energies in my visualization, my imagination.
Yeah,
I'm more in my right brain right now, or the energy is more, in my chest area, in my solar plexus, and, like it just, and that brings about more effortlessness in some arena of your own life, whatever you do. I don't know, everybody does different stuff, but like, that's really what it is. It's like, oh, I got this energy in this region of my body. So that means the energy is available. And then you get your reflections of that. You get other, you get more, if you have an abundance of a certain kind of energy, and then when it cycles around and you see it internally and externally, you got the energy, then you meet people that are matching in this moment. And it's really just knowing the cycles of the body. That's really about,
Yeah, I love you. Yeah.
Of the body.
Yeah, I think it's really useful.
The body is,
Yeah, you cut out a tiny bit there, but yeah, I really appreciate talking about it from the perspective of knowing your body, because you definitely don't need to read what some random person said in a super limited way about an aspect of the zodiac if you realize that.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's like, all right, so like, say for instance, you got like a lot of Pisces in your chart, or a lot of water in your chart. So in the body, that's gonna express itself as lower blood pressure, a more passive person, and more cold in all ways, or more cool and more laid back. Like if you have that element of water heavily in your chart, that doesn't mean that that's who you are. That just means that in order for you to,
that's how your body functions.
Yeah, that's the tendency of the body. So like, say in like certain environments with those elements that you have, you're prone to behaving a certain way. But if you took care of your body in another way, maybe, then you would be able to see that as it's developing instead of in hindsight. You see things like, all right, this is where the energy is in my body. I'll usually lose my temper this way, or I usually get sad this way. But I know it's just the zodiac. It's just the beast, the animal, it's the animated part going through a process. It's just going through a process of pressure or heat or energy in a different area of the body. So all I got to do is counter that, and for the most part, the breath work sets that all in order to where it shows you where the energy is welling up in your body. Like in what region is this energy welling up? And then the more you do breath work, you'll see why. Like, because you're working through that energy, you're processing that heat, burning it off. And once you come to the other side of that process, if you're consistently doing breath work, then you're like, oh, I do this. This knee-jerk reaction is because of this, people call it karma or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's just the energetic dynamic, really, within the body, where you're like, when this element meets these elements within my body, I behave this way, typically. But if I come into the circumstance in complete homeostasis, where my body, the temperatures in my body are even, and my organs are communicating correctly, and my breath and circulation are full, then it doesn't matter what the fucking zodiac's doing or saying.
Yeah.
Because you're at peace, you're at peace. So things can come and go and do things and whatever, but ultimately, it's all stemming from within you, like the way you respond to things. So that's where you control the ripples of the zodiac stuff. Like, I mean, that's really about it. And then, people not paying attention to their bodies on a massive scale, then you see massive movements and massive astrological alignments, because there's a bunch of people that aren't taking advantage of their creative ability, so they give up all that ability
of what? A small number of what?
Like a small number of individuals, or however you want to look at it, can control this for the masses, because
for sure
they've alleviated themselves of that energy, of that responsibility, and they're not. There's just different levels of self-discovery. It's like people want to say I'm a Aquarian, or I'm Gemini rising, so I behave this way, and this is the way it is, and this is this absolute thing.
Yeah.
That responds, and then it's out of comfort. All of that shit's supposed to get transcended, and the only way to transcend the elements is through alchemy, and the basis of alchemy is your breath and your spirit. So, like, it's cool, nice, cool conversation. We can talk about it, but if you go to a dark place, you're in the Himalayas or something, and there's no unnatural light. There's so many stars in the sky that, like, you could chart them and say this star is that star and this star means this, but ultimately you're just talking about light and darkness. Like, you're just talking about, like, okay, for instance, June 22nd is the longest day of the year, so it's an abundance of heat and light at that point. And then from that descent period, you have shorter days until the winter solstice. So in the solar house, you have heat in these ways, as you know, when the sun's in Taurus or when the sun is in this or in that, that you're having heat in different ways. It's different pressure. Because, I don't know if I'm making sense to the audience.
It's always a little tricky, but yeah.
It's just pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so throughout the year, you got different pressures in the body, but as you maintain consistent homeostasis and position yourself in respect to the elements, because it's elementary school, basically, if you're organizing your elements or more so aligning with the elements, you get up every day and you eat food first, then you're going against the way creation is expressing itself. Creation is expressing itself from nothing to something. It's going from less dense to dense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going from, air, fire, water, earth.
So you breathe, you see the sun, you hydrate, and then you eat.
Yeah, and then you go backwards from there. So then you're doing the same thing. You're going backwards. Okay, so you ate, and you wait a little while. Then you hydrate a little bit. Then you get your sun, and then you can do because then you've digested enough to where when you expand your diaphragm for breath work, it's just not as unpleasant. You could do it though. You could eat and go right into breath work, but it's gonna be way less.
Yeah, a lot more resistance.
Yeah, so it's just elemental respect, and then once you do that, that minute level, you don't really have to worry about the grand scheme of all these stars and all these pressures and stuff because you already are organized within. All your organs are balanced. So when someone's knocking on what door in your body, and you're like, okay, this is where that pressure is coming from. Okay, I'm not going to respond the way that is not complementary, so it doesn't really, the alignments kind of don't matter because you're always within yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the
whole Tower thing is about. Is whether I travel or if I stay at home, I am the universe. I don't need to move. I could move if I want to, but I'm always inside me. So I don't really have to know anything but me because me is everything.
Yeah.
So it's not facetious. It's more so it's humble and to be that way. To be I'm not any greater or less than. I am everything. So why do I have to study outwardly when I could just see the way I respond to things? And people, they don't acknowledge their thoughts that they have accepted as acceptable. Some might happen, and then they have, thoughts of malice or whatever about a person or an environment or a substance. They're like, man, I don't like this person or this thing or this place.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of that is just, it's just, that's just really accepting that limitation and accepting that, because again, like they say, being angry is punishing yourself for something somebody else did.
Yes. Yeah, I like the.
So it's the same thing. If you have a thought, if you hold on to the thoughts, it's okay to think of I don't know. People think of really, fucked up things in their mind, and it's okay to them. It's not okay to murder, but I can think about killing you. A lot of people, they, that's cool, but I don't want to live inside a mind like that.
Exactly, and it makes me think of Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say how it might sound on the outside to say things like that anger or pride or even mostly lust, that those things are all diseases because people are you don't want to. They think that's being too. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
So I was talking about pride, lust, anger, those things that if you heard someone in some religious text say like these things are bad, then a lot of people would be like, no, those are all parts of life. But I really relate with thinking of those all, including anxiety, as a disease, because you don't want to live with any of those things inside you. Like you might feel like you are enjoying your pride or enjoying your lust, but it really doesn't feel like it's true in the end.
Yeah, it's like you're not really feeling your whole body if you think that that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not really. There's parts of your body and your being that are being neglected. If you think it's okay to exist with cover emotions, because you know people are traumatized, a lot of them, so they go to cover emotions. They go to anger in place of fear because it seems stronger, but it's still being emotional. And like you said, those are not real emotions. Like real emotions are like, uh, what would we say? Respect. I guess you say respect, admiration, appreciation. That's real emotion. You know, like that's real emotion to feel like gratitude. That's real emotion.
Definitely.
Anger is a disease. Anger is a disease. It's a liver disease. Like at ease, so it's a disease. So like, it's just I don't know. It's just if people have condoned things inside their own body that are disrespectful to themselves, and then they think it's all right, and they continue on to live out throughout their day and their life, and they think that there's no ramifications for having those thoughts, or that doesn't affect the whole environment.
Yeah.
To be in that frequency, to reside in that frequency where you house these thoughts and these feelings, like that, like you said, it's a disease. But people don't evaluate it like that. It's just like you said, it's like people, they look for humanity to save them. They look for the comfort of humanity, and it's always within. It's always the divine that, I guess you could say, lack of a better term, that transcends that humanity, that animated part of you that is going to respond. If it's not in alignment, it's going to respond with those sick states of being.
Yeah.
Lust and pride. Like,
and it just gets ugly from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the template of being is so degraded.
Yeah, and I feel like part of the torture of that for sure is on whatever level, part of you knows that you're like making up stuff at that point, like when you
like mental gymnastics.
I mean, insane mental gymnastics, because you're just trying to like escape your own pain, your own emotions that you can't process. And you say about if you're hurt but you don't deal with the fact or even admit that you are hurt, then you just can't help it. Like if you don't deal with that, you just go around hurting people with that hurt that you have inside you. And if you feel like you're helpless to help your hurt, then you're pretty much lost and get desperate.
I mean, it's like you created this law that you live by.
Yeah.
And because you won't address your emotions, you're like, oh nah, even though that cut so deep, I'm gonna behave as if it did. So when I cut somebody deep, I can behave as if it did. And it's like,
yeah, that hurt.
It perpetuates itself, and then
that's ugly stuff. But I just so I wanted. Yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask you about learning about emotional release, because I'm sure you've learned a lot about it through doing deep breath work. And most people, of course, are, and I find myself, because I feel like I went through a giant stage of pineal paralysis, of feeling like I got stuck at a trauma point that was just making me panic, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And I'm still working with it, obviously, but so confused about like, how do I release all the emotions that are under here, all the backup that I have from huge amounts of things that I haven't processed. Could you talk a little bit about what it means when you're, or could you first of all explain what the pineal gland is, and then explain what it has to do with getting stuck at trauma?
Pineal is, by definition, it's technically an organ because it creates something. Because glands don't create anything. Like sweat glands don't create sweat.
Yeah, you're right. Gland is not the word, but yeah.
No, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying.
No, I like that you made that distinction. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, just so people realize, like, there are multiple organs in their brain, and that the pineal is its own organ in the brain, and like it's basically your center of motion. I mean, the pineal is made of carbon, the cerebral cortex is made of copper. Just like any alternator or generator, the friction between those two substances creates the electricity that allows the body to move. So because the pineal is pretty much like casting your visualization of life, your perception of life is coming through the pineal. Depending on your alignment, you get different perceptions. But yeah, if you're traumatized, then you just that projector is constantly on repeat, and then you just can't get out that scene of the movie until you complete it. And it's just like just like when a CD or DVD is skipped and you just can't go forward.
Yeah.
But it keeps spinning.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And people are convinced that you can do things on the outside that are going to resolve that for you, even if you don't go through seeing what you didn't see before, or experiencing what you didn't let yourself experience before.
Yeah, that's the issue with mechanical results, because somebody can be extremely unhealthy and work a job in this unhealthy society.
Exactly.
And it'll yield them sensory satisfaction, but it won't yield them satisfaction of any real depth. Like, a person could be in terrible health, but they're not going to do nothing about it because they make more money than the next person maybe, and that's their value system. And yeah, they might not be able to, fully breathe and fully inhabit their body and move around the way they want to and have sex the way they want to. They might not be able to do any of those things. They might need support for all of those things, external support. So like, people, if they can buy their Viagra, if they can buy their fake food, that gives them momentary pleasure, if they can do that, then that mechanical satisfaction or mechanical response has them feeling like they're moving forward, even though the scene inside their head has not gone to the next scene. And that's where I feel like a lot of people are stuck, because they don't. I don't want to call it the unseen or invisible, or I guess you could say invisible, like within, like looking within, like the visibility within, the invisible, like living with that, and just being conscious of that and being aware of the fact that there's a unseen or subtle or invisible side to life, that those processes have to be respected. Like, it's like the same way, like there's a guy named G Dep that was a rapper from years ago. He killed a guy. He was like 17, and then he had a pretty famous record. He was all over TV at one point. I don't know if people remember the Harlem Shake dance, and he was one of the rappers, in that song. So like, he killed a guy though when he was like 17, and it ate him alive. And he ended up telling on himself, and he didn't have to. He didn't have to do that, but it's just that unseen part that you got to respect, And it's like, if you don't, then you lose, that living inside yourself is hell.
Yeah.
Living in your body is hell. So you need escapism at that point. You need the substances, or you need to come forthright, tell the truth, release that energy, and move forward. A lot of people, they got to really address themselves to get to that point to release like that. And like, it's just, that's the thing, is just that people don't respect the subtle end of things. They respect that, okay, I show up at this job, I get this paycheck, or I show up at church and I get, I pay church and everybody saw me with nice clothes on, And that means I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing because it appears as such. Like, because my bank account says this, and because I appear this way, and people receive me this way. But everybody's being funny with themselves, so there's no real standard, And
Yeah,
and then when you do run into somebody that's not being phony, you run into somebody that's not being phony, and all of a sudden they are the bad guy.
Exactly. Then that's true. And so what can people do or more, not what can people do, but could you describe a little bit more the process of respecting the invisible, like doing your breath work, why, or how emotions get released through that, and how you feel? Like, I assume being raised in this culture that you feel much different now than you probably did. Like, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
All right.
I think I get the gist of what you said.
Yeah, I bet you do. Like, because you're just at a point where you understand a state that most people never get.
Say, like, the things that matter are, when you're doing things when people aren't looking, those are the things that matter. What do you do when you're alone? Like, where's your accountability? Because, you got to be accountable. You got to be like, man, I can't think those thoughts. Those thoughts are not okay to live inside me. I can't do this alone. Even if I ate this, this whole, I ate a slice of cheesecake at 3 a.m. or whatever people do, like, they're not, they got to have the accountability. Like, yeah, you do that, but you're going to have to do a hell of a lot of breath work and alchemical countering to counter those behaviors if you want the homeostasis and the peace that comes with homeostasis. So it really just comes down to, like, total accountability of as many breaths of the day as you can be. Like, you can't be conscious without breath. Really. Like, people say, are you conscious of your breath all day? I'm like, if I'm not breathing, I'm not fucking conscious. I'm fucking breathing. So,
yes.
Consciousness and breath are tandem. So, like, as you get more, inhabit your body more, and you breathe in more, and the whole body's breathing more, allowing you to inhabit it more because it's flowing, then you can get a track. You can be accountable. Like, okay, I woke up. This is my cycle. I got this far from homeostasis with these substances. I got to reduce somewhere. And then you just gradually reduce and then remain accountable, and then just continue to take the steps when they present themselves and make no excuses. And if you do things that are not complimentary, then you know that you have to counter that. Like, okay, if I don't get my second breathwork session in today, then I got to get 3 tomorrow or whatever it is. Not to be, like, guilty, but somewhere something's got to give. Like, either you're going to do more breathwork sessions, or you're going to be fasting more, or you're going to be staying away from people that bring out bad emotions until you can control that.
Yeah, you're going to be reducing.
Somewhere.
It's the opposite of guilt. That's what I like so much about it, actually. It's sort of the opposite of guilt when you're doing it right. Like the no excuses, accountability happens as you are reducing things. Sorry?
Yeah, but, like, when you know that you have power within yourself like that, then like it doesn't matter. Like, if I get up every single day for this whole month and I change my routine and make it more complimentary every day, like, results will come of this. Like, I don't have to know. I don't need to know what the results will be. That will show itself, but results will happen if I change the ingredients. Like, if I have tomato sauce and noodles, you're gonna make spaghetti or whatever. But if you change those ingredients, then you got different dish. And, like, it's just the fact of life. Like, people got to change the ingredients, change the arrangement of their elements, and then they'll see the miracles from day to day. The small ones will come. Usually, people, they all want to be Kobe Bryant and shit, so they don't acknowledge none of them small miracles that happen every fucking day. Just a bunch of tiny miracles making. Really, I mean, every breath is kind of miraculous. So it's like, as you gain greater appreciation for that, then you can see it more. then you see, then like, you can feel it more or be receptive to it, however you want to look at it. I don't know. A lot of people might not be okay with the idea of seeing the metaphysical or whatever, but you can see it. Like, different points in your life. I'm sure you work for things that people might have not thought that you could do, and maybe you didn't think you could do, but you just kept at it almost with blind faith, and then things just worked out because it's just energy. Like, you can't stop the energy, man. Like, you can't stop Kobe because Kobe didn't go to college. You had to go to college. You had to go to class. All he did all day was shoot jumpers and do drills. Like,
all he thought about was basketball. Yeah, I just said all he thought about was basketball. I thought something he said that was just memorable was, but he said like he knew it was time for him to retire because it was the first time in his whole life that when he was alone with himself or had like a space in his thoughts that is.
You said he knew it was time to retire?
Yeah, it was the first time in his whole life where anytime he had a break in what he was doing or was thinking or just a pause that he didn't turn to thinking about basketball. So he was literally completely tuned in.
I mean, he knew it in his body because if you are that in touch with your body, you know when you lose a step, like immediately.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, same with you and your breath.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know I can feel that shit in like no time. Like, if I miss a session, my dog.
Yeah, no problem. It's okay. Don't worry.
Hello?
I'm here. I thought you might have been dealing with the dog, but
somebody just over here. I might have to call you back.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, these dogs.
It's no problem. You should. Yeah, part one ends here.
All right, we'll talk again for sure.
Yeah, this is just part one.